Hi guys, welcome back. So the old Nations Cup has come back into the news. Is it finally going to happen? How would it work? Well, meetings are taking place to try and finally sort out this Nations Cup, maybe starting in 2026, and I say maybe. Will we get an agreement in principle between all the stakeholders, or will they prove obstinate and scupper the plan once again, keep kicking the can down the road until the can's so beat up it gets put in the trash? But anyway, will the North v South interests align? Can they reach that dreaded word of compromise, or will no one compromise and we get nowhere? It'll be interesting where we get to. There is a big meeting with World Rugby due in November. Could we have a finalised plan there? I'd say it's unlikely, but I'm hoping there might be something finally. It's big ifs anyway. Let me know what you think, but I'm going to get into it just as if it is going to happen, because it's an interesting idea, and if it does happen, it will be one of the biggest shake-ups to international rugby, well, ever, to be honest. So, the idea is a biannual, every 2-year competition where you miss out the Rugby World Cup and the Lions, so what you'd get is something like this. For example, if it started in 2026, you'd get a Nations Cup, then you'd go to the World Cup in Australia, then you'd have the second Nations Cup, then you'd have the Lions Tour to Australia, then another Nations Cup, etc. So that's kind of the way it goes. So you'd have some sort of world event every year. Now, that sounds pretty cool. It would, create maybe a higher purpose to international friendlies, although international friendlies in rugby I think are a lot better than international friendlies in other sports like football. There is big bragging rights on them. They are never friendly. But would it actually create a final goal for them, beyond the rankings as well and developing for the World Cup? Or maybe that's enough. Let me know. But what it would be great for is TV deals and marketing. You could put it together as a package, sell the Nations Cup, which would go for big money as a product rather than kind of piecemeal deals here and there. Anyway, I'm sure that's the thinking behind it. Essentially to get more money into the game, which should then hopefully help grow the game. That is the plan, of course. Whether that's going to happen, who knows? So the suggestion is you have a 2-tier system. You have a top 12 and then you have a second-tier league. The top 12 would be split into 2 sixes. Now, you'd have 6 in the north, 6 in the south. I'm pretty sure the 6 in the north would be the Six Nations sides. It pretty much makes sense, as in they play each other anyway in the Six Nations, so that's like a double header where the Six Nations games count towards the Nations Cup as well. Does that create even more excitement in the Six Nations, or does it not need it at all? Although there's a slight spanner in the works that at the moment, if you're going on rankings, Georgia's actually slightly higher than Italy outside the top 12. But if they were to do it, they would absolutely stick with the Six Nations sides. Whether that's fair or not, let me know. In the Southern Hemisphere Six, well, I'm sure it will be these teams here: Argentina, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Fiji and South Africa. Would that be a potential expanded rugby championship? Is that the ideal outcome? The closest there, they are all inside the top 12, of course. Samoa will be the closest and 13, but you couldn't really make too much argument, I think, for those 6 there. So it kind of works fairly neatly with those 12 top teams. Then in the autumn and the summer tour, is that the chance to then play the North versus the South games? But if there's a finals as well, or maybe like a semi-final and a final, that does sound like quite a lot of games to fit in. And of course, you have the player welfare issue. Anyway, a lot of conflicting interests to sort out. Everyone pretty much says they kind of want it, but they are going to have to compromise, and that is the word. It's all very well to say I want it, but only if it's exactly in my interests. Someone's going to have to lose slightly, someone's going to have to gain slightly, and some of these decisions might have to be made, dare I say, on a rugby basis, not just a business basis. If a business is got regular revenue streams, the bosses will not want to change that, even though in the long run, you should see bigger revenue streams in. So you're going to need some long-sighted vision here. A couple of closing thoughts. I'd love to know your opinions on these. If the Nations Cup does happen, does that devalue the World Cup? Is the Nations Cup potentially a better way of working out who the best side in the world is? And does the World Cup then become more of a festival? Is there just too much similarity between the two to make it a goer? Now, one of the stated aims is to create a route way for those second-tier teams, but, are the first-tier teams really going to accept the potential of relegation from that big moneymaker? It's going to be a tough one, but they're simply going to have to build it in. How would that work? I don't know. Let me know how you think you would work relegation to and from the second and first-tier competition. And does it actually reduce the chance of the smaller teams to play the big boys if they're always playing each other? So many questions. Deep down, yes, I am a bit sceptical it's going to work. In the long run, what do I think should happen? Well, I think it should happen. I think it is the future. I think it's almost inevitable. Is it going to spoil a bit of tradition? Maybe, but I just see if you want to grow the game, if you need to bring more money into the game, which, I think everyone agrees you do, this is probably the way to go. Anyway, do you agree with that? Do you disagree? How would it work if it did work? Love to know your thoughts as normal. I've said before in my previous video, you may see a little click icon there for super thanks. If you want to do that, it's completely optional, but I absolutely will answer your question in detail. If you did do that, that would be amazing. Anyway, guys, I will catch you very soon with my discussion with my Southern Hemisphere colleagues about the summer tours coming up, and I'll catch you next time.